Chapter 1877 KG Country. The Kingdom of Kaj is located in North Africa. Africa is located at the equator and is the hottest zone in the world. After the end of the world, although the people here were also affected, the number of survivors was the largest in the world. Zhang Yi had heard of the existence of this country, but he only knew its name. As a poor and backward country, it has basically solved the problem of food and clothing with its developed production in the middle of the 21st century. The country's level of development is equivalent to that of Huashu Kingdom in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. After listening to Alibu's words, Zhang Yi frowned and felt extremely surprised. Cage country is not a powerful country. With the strength of the Junjing Church, it can send people to get the so-called seal. Why go all the way to High City to find him? Zhang Yi expressed his inner doubts. Alibu said very seriously, "You don't understand the current KG country. It is a very difficult existence for the whole world." "Oh, why?" Zhang Yi became more and more curious. The strength of Cage Kingdom was not strong either. They did not participate in the Battle of Fremons and the Battle of Feihai City. Alibu then slowly told Zhang Yi the story. It turns out that today's KG Kingdom is no longer the same as the small North African country it once was. After the end of the world, a powerful alien with extraordinary talents appeared in KG country, Kenshan. If the catastrophe is a reshuffle of creation, then the gift owners will be randomly distributed around the world. It is not based on the country's level of development, but is a completely random alienation. African countries, due to their geographical advantages and abundant natural resources, have the highest proportion of survivors among the 7 continents. Kenshan came from the military of Cage country and was originally a lieutenant with a low rank. However, due to unexpected events, he rose rapidly and took control of the military and political power. In less than half a year, he became the ruler of KG through a military coup. It took less than a year to completely unify the most prosperous and most populous region in North Africa. Today, the country of KG has a population of more than 10 million, which is a large populous country in the world. Hearing this, Zhang Yi smiled faintly and said, "Even so, it's not reasonable for you to be afraid of them, right?" Alibu crossed his hands and said with a deep look in his eyes, "But what if I tell you that General Kenshan, the ruler of Cage country, is a powerful alien with immeasurable strength? It's incalculable." Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes, carefully weighing the value of these words. Alibu himself is a practical Christian, and these 4 words spoken by him are particularly valuable. What does this mean? Could it be that he has reached the level of the black cult? Alibu said to Zhang Yi, "Superpowers are not limited by the level of technology. Although Cage is backward, it has a large population. Kenshan's superpowers are very high, and after establishing a huge kingdom, he used all the resources of the entire country to provide for himself. Plus, he used special means to make KG his territory. So over the years, no one dared to offend them." At this point, he also cited several major European countries as examples. African territory is very popular in the end times. Several European countries have wanted to send troops to occupy a piece of land. The Kingdom of Cage in North Africa is their first choice. However, whether it was Prussia, France, or Britannia, they all suffered defeat in the process of sending troops to the Kingdom of Cage. Among them, there are the teams from Asgard and Knights of the Round Table that you are very familiar with. Zhang Yi frowned and said coldly, "You want me to deal with such a troublesome opponent?" Alib said, "It's not about dealing with each other. It's about negotiating. After all, KG is an independent and powerful kingdom. It is self-enclosed and does not allow people within the country to move out, nor does it easily allow outsiders to enter the country. Today's KG country can be said to be General Kenshan's private territory. The reason why we invite you over is, firstly, because Huashu country has no conflicts with them. Secondly, your identity is self-reliant, and your actions will not cause major conflicts at the international level. But the most important point is that you are strong enough. I have witnessed this with my own eyes." Alib praised, "Your strength comes from your energy, and even more from your wisdom. You are very smart, and only smart people are truly strong. So, I think you can respond well in complex situations. That's why I came to you. Zhang Yi started to think. The black magic eye symbol was still on his chest. He knew that after inheriting the legacy of the Yihan tribe, he would definitely be watched closely by the God Drucker. He can either flee or choose to seal the God Drucker. If he does this, he must weigh the pros and cons, and he will not do anything he is not sure of. What's the point of doing this to me? Zhang Yi looked at Alib. Alib stared at Zhang Yi. We can't give you any benefits, because this is a crisis that all mankind will face together. It concerns the life and death of you and me. What the Junjing Church needs to pay is far more than all of you. It sounds like what he said makes sense. Zhang Yi put down the coffee in his hand and looked at Olivo quietly for a long time without saying anything. After a long while, he said calmly, I know about this matter, but I'm sorry, I'm not very interested. After saying this, he stood up directly. He would consider it, but he had to show such an attitude in order to gain an advantageous position in the subsequent negotiations. A deep disappointment flashed in Olib's eyes. He also stood up and said to Zhang Yi sincerely, This is a world-destroying disaster. No one can escape it. As the top humans, we will be the first targets to be wiped out by the Demon King. Lord Chaos, I hope you can reconsider this. This is not only about you and me, but also about the entire human world. Zhang Yi glanced at him and said indifferently, Let's talk about it later. After saying that, Zhang Yi took Hua and left without looking back. Go to North Africa, to a strange place, to fight a powerful general whose country's identity is unknown? It seems so clear and stupid no matter how you look at it. He needed Alibu to give him more information and give up his interests. However, he would indeed consider carefully whether to go or not. Zhang Yi returned to High City and talked to Yang Xinxin about this matter. Xinxin, do you think we should do this? Zhang Yi leaned back on the sofa and asked with some hesitation. Xinxin said, From the situation there, God Drucker, also known as Mammon, the Lord of the Seven Deadly Sins as mentioned by the Junjing Church, has been seriously injured by the Four Horsemen. He obviously showed up at the wrong time because that day he was also punished by Kagago. This is indeed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She covered her chest and said, I have a feeling that we will meet sooner or later. Even escaping to outer space or to the bottom of the earth is not completely safe. Zhang Yi walked aside, heated a towel with hot water, and then applied it to his face. Let's see what kind of information the Junjing Church can provide. Such an important matter cannot be settled in one go, and Alibu will not give up easily, so there will be further contact next time. But there's one thing that Zhang Yi still finds strange. Is it really necessary to find yourself? The reasoning given by Alibu seems to be sufficient, but what kind of country is KG that requires it to find an independent and different country? Zhang Yi was a little confused, so he called Deng Shentong and asked him to help look up information about the country of KG. After hearing this, Deng Shentong said calmly, Okay. Within a few minutes, he provided a large amount of resources to Zhang Yi. It must be said that his efficiency was really high. Zhang Yi praised, You are really good at logistics and intelligence. Deng Shentong said, The KG Kingdom is a very special existence. If you are working in the field of international intelligence, it is difficult not to pay attention to it. Zhang Yi asked, I heard that the ruler of Cage Country, General Kenshan, is very powerful. Even several major European powers were defeated by him. Is that true? Deng Shentong nodded. This is indeed true. Otherwise, how could they let go of that warm and fertile land? Zhang Yi supported his chin with both hands and asked leisurely, How strong is it? Unpredictably strong. Deng Shentong replied, But it is certain that he definitely has the strength of a master. But as for his specific strength level, no one in the international community can give an accurate answer. Some say that his strength may be as high as 40,000 points. Others say that he is a tank-class alien with more than 20,000 points. Yang Xinxin keenly grasped the crux of the problem. According to common sense, A person's strength wouldn't fluctuate so much. So his strength might rely on external objects, right? Deng Shintong smiled and said, 2 years ago, General Shan defeated the invaders from Europe for the third time. At this time, the mystery and oppression of KG in the West reached its peak. At this time, General Shan decided to send troops to retaliate against the Roman Empire that had offended him. The ruler of the Roman Empire at that time, god of light Jupiter, was also the one who died in the battlefield of Fremons before. He was just a black chariot-level alien. Everyone thought that the Roman Empire would fall under the wheels of war of the Kingdom of Cage. But what no one expected was that the general who was invincible in the North African battlefield was actually defeated by Jupiter himself and finally fled back to the Kingdom of Cage in embarrassment. As Zhang Yi listened, he suddenly felt that this matter sounded familiar. He is strong only because of his strength in KG country. He will not be able to survive without that land. Yang Xinxin and Zhang Yi looked at each other and said in unison, "The power of faith." They had seen the same situation in the southwest region. With the blessing of years of tantric belief, he was even able to confront the prince of Nash Kingdom with 30,000 points when his ability index was only around 20,000 points. But this power has a limitation, that is, it can only be used within the scope of one's own religious sect. The power of faith. Zhang Yi murmured in his mouth. After the explanation of the Ihan tribe, he understood the source of the alien power. The mysterious concept of faith also has a reasonable explanation. Everyone has an etheric body and contains powerful energy, just more or less. Some people can develop superpowers, while others are just ordinary muggles. If the true meaning of the universe is human thinking and will, then when the wills of countless people are concentrated together and believe in something, extremely powerful ideas will be born. Zhang Yi asked Deng Shintong, "Is General Kensane a religious leader in KG Kingdom?" Deng Shintong leaned against the door with his arms folded and said with a teasing expression, "Forget it." In Cage Country, they told the people that General Shan was the savior sent by heaven, the forever fallen sun god. So his code name was Sun God Kamonra. General Shan ruled the country with his absolute power and proclaimed himself a god. Everyone must believe in him and admire him. He does not allow anyone who disobeys or questions him to exist. Zhang Yi thought about himself. He now had nearly 100,000 subordinates around him who believed in him as the supreme. Why can't he feel the power of that kind of faith? He told Yang Xinxin the doubts in his mind. This is very strange. Huashu country has a very large population. Except for the southwest region, I have never heard of any place that gave birth to powerful aliens because of faith. Yang Xinxin said, "Maybe this is related to the sincerity of belief. There is a saying that sincerity is effective. Only with sincere belief and admiration can the power of ether be passed on to someone." Zhang Yi took a deep breath. In other words, the people of KG Kingdom sincerely worship General Shan and regard him as a god, right? Thinking of this, he had a better impression of General Shan. It is no wonder that in this world where human life is worth less than grass, there is a strong leader who can protect everyone in the country. I can't express my heartfelt gratitude to him. Yang Xinxin suddenly sneered. That may not be the case, brother. Perhaps it's the Stockholm effect. The Stockholm effect is a symptom in which the kidnapped person develops a liking for or even dependence on the kidnapper. For example, when you are kidnapped by kidnappers, you may think you're going to be killed, and you may suffer a mental breakdown. At this time, instead of killing you, the kidnappers will provide you with food and comfort you. At times like this, you would think the kidnapper is a good person. This is typical Stockholm syndrome. Zhang Yi knocked on the coffee table and said slowly, "Old Deng, continue to help me investigate the intelligence over there. I will be of great use in the future." Deng Shintong nodded. Yang Xinxin gave Zhang Yi a suggestion. "If you want to understand the power of faith, the best option is to ask the Undertaker Luo Zhua." Zhang Yi said, "Don't worry. Let's put this matter aside for now. I have to take care of the battle with King Arthur first. He has already chosen the battlefield. 2,300 nautical miles southwest of Tianhai City, there is a huge deserted island called Sogo Island. The area of the island is very large, usually only a dozen square kilometers. He designated that place as the battlefield, sent the location coordinates to King Arthur, and agreed on a time. 15 days later, at 10 a.m., please come on time. When King Arthur received the news, a smile suddenly appeared on his face, and his fighting spirit also rose. Chaos, behind the light gate, it's time to pay you back for teasing me. At this moment, he was sitting on a large red sofa in a training suit, his hair stuck together due to sweat, and a simple knight's two-handed sword was placed aside. Merlin was walking towards him from a distance. Has the battlefield and time been decided? We need to go there in advance to observe. He smiled. King Arthur nodded. This battle is very important. We can't afford to lose. Merlin took out a green conch from under his wide robe and handed it to him. Here's what you want, the conch horn. We got it from the second floor of Atlantis. It's a treasure used by the merfolk to calm the waves of the sea. With it, you can limit the spatial fluctuations within the area. It will prevent him from activating spatial energy to travel through time. Merlin spread his hands and said, I've already been defeated by him once, and it was hard to get that little information. I hope you can help me get revenge. However, with it, you can weaken his combat capability by at least 30%, or even 50%. At that time, the battle situation will be in your hands. King Arthur held the conch horn in his hand, his face showing even more confidence. I must win this battle magnificently. The glory of the Levent family must not be desecrated by anyone. Zhang Yi brought Liang Yu, Yang Xinxin, and others to the vicinity of Chongguang Island. He carefully surveyed the surroundings, then flew high into the sky to take in everything nearby and even recorded it on video to analyze it carefully when he got back. Then he landed on Sogo Island and observed it inch by inch. In the end, he even escaped under the power of the Great Lord. This boring observation lasted for more than an hour. Fatty Sue was also brought over. Seeing the scene, he became extremely curious. Boss, did you plant a bomb under the ground? When you are ready, just blow King Arthur to death. Zhang Yi glanced at him and said calmly, King Arthur has no reason to fight me to the death. This battle is a duel. If I do something wrong, I will only become the object of ridicule by the strange people all over the world. So I'll do it in advance. Fatty Sue scratched his head and said, I saw you flying up and down and running for a long time. If you were setting a trap, what was it for? Zhang Yi pointed to the sea in the distance. This area is close to the deep sea. The tide fluctuates every day in the vast ocean. I must pay attention to whether there are big waves coming. He pointed toward the island again. The island is washed by the sea every day. The beach is soft and the island is extremely humid. If we stop on the island during the battle, there is a chance that our feet will sink into the mud. It's a duel between top masters. Any mistake can be fatal. King Arthur uses a sword, and he is good at attacking from the front. Whenever he makes a mistake because of the soft mud under his feet, it will give me a chance. Fatty Sue was dumbfounded when he heard this. There are so many tricks to this duel. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. This duel is about honor, not death. Otherwise, I have more methods to use. One's own strength is only partly responsible for victory or defeat. The right time is always favorable to one, and heaven comes before man. Sometimes, even luck can determine victory or defeat. Fatty Sue nodded with emotion, feeling that he had learned a lot today. By the way, how is your absorption of the ritual spirit going? Zhang Yi asked. Fatty Sue said with a sad face, I do feel that my body is beginning to change. Sometimes it feels like a ball of blood is flowing through my veins, and sometimes I feel cold all over as if I'm trapped in an ice cellar. I don't know when this will end. Zhang Yi patted his shoulder and said, You should figure it out slowly. Not long after they returned, the Knights of the Round Table also arrived here and began to inspect the battlefield. Zhang Yi's inspection of the battlefield was exactly the same, and he hoped that external factors would affect King Arthur's performance. There is still half a month left until the day of the decisive battle. And half a month is enough time for too many things to happen in today's world. The sudden change in Fremons has put the whole world on alert. The mechanical life forms harvested on the battlefield are their precious treasures, and the mechanical level of each country will be greatly improved in the near future. The greatest impact was the spiritual essence released by the Ihan tribe, which caused a secondary mutation around the world. Southwest region, snowy mountains, Mount Everest. If the snowy plateau of the southwest region is the roof of the world, then Mount Everest is the tip of the roof. This mountain, with an altitude of 8,848.86 meters, is like a sharp sword piercing the sky. Over the years, it has attracted countless mountaineering enthusiasts and explorers to climb it. In Sala City, the old site of the Songjia Monastery had been burned down, and everything that symbolized the old times had been completely eradicated. In another area, a brand new Buddhist temple, Jokhang Temple, has been completed. Since Zhang Yi's last visit, the two brothers of Zhangzhu realized that the wishes of Tantra were extremely important for them to guard the snowy plateau. So they rebuilt Tantra. Due to the good religious beliefs and the call of Luo Zhua as the leader of the liberators Snow Mountain Condor, the new Tantric Buddhism quickly became the belief of the believers in the entire southwest region. On this day, Luo Zhua stood under the eaves of the Jokhang Temple, watching the falling snow outside the window. The world he sees is different from that of ordinary people. Rays of golden light converge here from all directions, like beautiful and dazzling aurora. Luo Zhua raised his hand, and a ray of light condensed in his palm. The huge prayer wheels behind him began to rotate on their own, without anyone driving them. The world has changed, Luo Zhua murmured. He looked deeply into the distance and began to feel a little worried. The southwest region had become peaceful and quiet, and people began to work in an orderly manner, just waiting for the ice to pass so that they could rebuild a civilized city. This secondary mutation sweeping the world has brought opportunities as well as challenges. Whether it will be a blessing or a disaster, no one can tell for sure.